We're all human beings. We think we know what we know, but sometimes we don't know what we don't know.
Originating from deep inside the Rocky Mountains, transported through the power of the internet, and arriving inside your tiny earbuds. It's the Appraiser Coach Podcast.
Minisode.
And welcome back to the program, everybody. A quick mini-sode for you. I'm not fired up, I promise. And you know what? That's actually saying something. This topic can very much get me fired up. I don't feel that way today, so hopefully it doesn't come across that way. But I do have some things on my mind, and yes, I know this is a topic that we have visited more than once on this show, but a couple things transpired today that just had it on my mind again, and I ended up writing a blog post that I'm going to be putting out, and I'm not going to read it word for word here because you'll get to see it online if you follow my blogs. But it's an analogy. It's an analogy that I use to kind of drive the point home, if you will. But I'll tell you what I'm talking about in just a second. First, I want to pause here and remind you that we are sponsored by Now Software. Of course, well, it's the software I use to manage and organize and run and analyze and everything else in my business. In fact, I was just on it right before I got on the microphone, just looking at our workflow, just see what's in the pipeline, where everything is, if we're missing anything, making sure that all my employees understand their role and what they're doing. Anow will do all of that for you. It's anow.com/coach. One more time, anow.com/coach. Well, folks, I'm not going to tell you the story that perpetuated the podcast today, but you know the story. It's a common story. It's a common theme ever since I started coaching other real estate appraiser business owners years ago. It's probably the thing, not a thing, but the thing that is foremost been a struggle for me as a coach. And that is overcoming this idea that human beings have of what's possible and what's not possible. Okay? And what I mean by that is perspective. Okay? And so it's quite often, and it usually happens, just to be fair to the individuals that kind of push back against this, it usually happens to individuals that honestly, and I don't mean this in a degrading way at all. I just mean this, actually I mean this in a merciful way, to give them the quote benefit of the doubt. It usually happens with individuals that frankly think they know what it is that I do, but they don't really understand it. Okay, they're individuals that probably see my name pop up here and there. They probably see a quote here and a quote there. They may follow the podcast even, okay? It's very possible to follow my podcast and listen to me twice a week, okay? Not that anybody actually listens to every episode, but you could listen to every episode here and feel that you know Dustin Harris very well, that you feel like you know the Appraiser Coach very well, that you feel like you understand the principles and the practices and the things that I teach very well. And you could not be further from the truth. Now, some of you may very well understand what it is that I teach. Some of you may very well know the principles by heart that I teach. But many, I would say many, not a few, but many will listen to this podcast and they will read my blogs and they will think that they have a pretty good idea of how Dustin Harris runs his business. And on top of that, how Dustin Harris coaches others to run their business. And it is very common that the comments that I get online or private messages or even phone calls or people that I meet in person, at conferences or what have you, believe to their credit, okay, that they really have studied and understand what it is that I teach, and they are very against it. And by the way, there's nothing wrong. This topic today is nothing against an individual who has studied what I have to offer and has decided, you know what, that's not for me. Okay? I have no problem with that at all. The struggle I have is people who think they know, okay, who think they know what it is that I teach, make a judgment call on it, right? And really, when it comes down to it, don't actually understand. I was going to say don't have a clue. They probably have a clue, okay? But they don't fully understand what it is that I teach. If you want to have a very good grasp of what I teach, I would invite you, and yes, it's going to cost you some money, okay? But I would invite you to my website, and I would invite you to take my 14-hour course called Go Create Some Value. And then the follow-up course is Go Remodel Your Appraisal Business, okay? And those two courses will lay the foundation, if you will, lay the foundation on what it is that the appraiser coach teaches. Those are the fundamental pillars that I build everything else on. They're the principles that I build the practices upon. Okay. So when you're building a building, you got to have a foundation, and then you can put the walls up. Okay. A wall might be going mobile. A wall might be paperless. A wall might be hire a VA, right? But they're built on the foundations of technology. They're built on the foundations, the principle of law of delegation. Okay. So if you really want to understand what it is that I truly believe in my heart of hearts, what's truly made me successful as a real estate appraiser, and in turn as a real estate appraiser coach, that's really where you find those fundamentals. Okay. Now, if you go through that process and truly understand what it is that I do, okay, then my hat's off to you if you disagree. I don't have any problem with that. I have zero problem with a different opinion than mine. What gets my goat, okay, and hopefully that doesn't make me sound fired up, because I really am not. It's one of these things that used to really rile me up, and it doesn't really so much anymore, just because it's one of those things. It's like, you know what? It's the crack in the sidewalk that's always there, and I've learned to step around it, okay? And the idea here is that I get messages on a regular basis with people who, again, I don't have any problem if you disagree, but they think they know what it is that I teach. And then they make, if I can dare say, idiotic comments regarding what I teach. And usually they're pretty opinionated, and usually they're done in a very heated way, and sometimes not so nice way, okay? Which is fine, whatever. People are people. I'm not going to be friends with everybody. I'm not trying to be friends with everybody. I don't really care that much. I don't. I've got the core group of people, my members, my all-star team members, my dream team members that I love and adore, and we help each other to be better at what we do, okay? And if I can be of help to other people out there as well, I would love to do that, but I'm not going to reach everybody. In fact, I've explained here before that my demographic probably reaches into the hundreds, not thousands of appraisers. Now, there are, 50, 60, maybe 70,000 appraisers nationwide. Okay. And my demographic, my avatar, if you will, is in the hundreds, literally. Okay. The type of individual that I'm trying to share information with, or that even has a desire to learn from me, is very small. Okay. And I'm okay with that. I really am. I'm okay with that. Okay. Let's pause here. We're going to take a break, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to give you a little bit more detail. Again, I'm not going to go into specifics. Okay. I don't want to throw anybody under the bus. That's not the goal here. I just want to teach a bigger principle here about possibilities. Okay, and about paradigms, okay, to use a term that my good friend Stephen Covey used to use. I want to pause here and remind you that we are sponsored by ANow Software. My good friend Stephen Covey, I don't think ever used ANow Software, but he certainly used the principles that the walls of ANow Software are built upon, and that is efficiency and effectiveness and organization. Okay, talk about the ability to be able to organize your entire appraisal world, to understand what it is that we do and what is going on, not just on the pipeline side, okay? In other words, what I was doing before I came on the program today, looking at where are we at with the pipeline today? What is in progress? What is due? What is holding things up, okay? What is it that I need to do as a business owner to kind of, move things around a little bit? But it's also about analytics. It's also about being a business owner. It's also about understanding what it is that it takes to run a business, to understand the numbers. Okay, to understand the volume, to understand what types of work that we're doing so that we can possibly shift to other types of work. How much lender work versus non-lender work, for example. ANow is the tool that will allow you to make those decisions. Check them out. Go to anow.com/coach. One more time, it's anow.com/coach. We are back. Welcome back to the program. Dustin Harris hanging out with you in your podcast chair, talking about some principles today. I'm not going to get into the practices again of what brought me here. Let's just say a conversation that I had between yesterday and today facilitated my thinking that I just wanted to pop on, I guess, and share a principle, share an idea that I think will be helpful. My goal today is not to throw anyone under the bus. It's not to rant and rave and jump up and down and scream and throw chairs and say, golly, I just wish people would get on board. I just wish they would understand, right? How dare you judge me? And you don't even know what I do, what I stand for, blah, 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 blah. Here's the thing, folks, and this is the absolute honest truth. I have loved over the last several years the opportunity to change lives for the better. Okay? And I don't think I'm exaggerating in using that term. When you are able to see an appraiser who is absolutely drowning, and often, folks, I am the last person that they reach out to. I cannot tell you how often I have been reached out to by appraisers who are absolutely drowning, who have said, Dustin, you're my last hope. Literally, I'm ready to hang up my hat as an appraiser and go do something different. But I heard your podcast, I read your blog, I saw you at a conference, whatever, fill in the blank. I learned about you somehow. And if you're able to make it work in rural Idaho, then I think you can help me to make it work in rural Minnesota or metro LA or whatever the case may be. There is nothing more satisfying that's not true. My relationship with my wife and my children and my good friends are more satisfying. Okay, I'll just lay that out there. But other than those, there is nothing more satisfying in my life than to take the hard lessons that I've learned as an appraiser, as a business owner. And folks, you're listening to someone who did it all wrong for years. Okay, I'm the guy that worked 60 plus hours a week every single week and never saw my wife and never saw my kids and frankly hated my life. Really. I enjoyed appraising, but I didn't enjoy it at the expense of my relationships. And I found a better way. Because I turned to people like Stephen Covey and Napoleon Hill and, fill in the blank. There's so many out there that I learned from. And I started applying principles of truth in my own business, in my own life. And it changed my life for the better. And there's nothing more satisfying, other than the things that I mentioned, than to see someone who is in despair and to spend a couple of weeks with them and absolutely watch their lives, not just their business. It starts with their business, but watch their lives change for the better. Someone who cannot make their bills, someone who has the inability to live day to day, someone who maybe makes a lot of money, but was like me and didn't have much of a relationship with anybody because they were in the car and in front of a computer all the time. And to watch their lives change to where they're working less than 30 hours a week and making more money than they've ever made. And on top of that, the quality of their reports have gone through the roof for the good. Okay? Yeah, it's possible, folks. It's possible. Now, this brings me to the topic today. And the topic today has to do with a communication that I had with an individual here the last couple of days. And the communication was, you cannot fill in the blank. Okay? And it has to do with the way I run my business. Okay? It wasn't a personal attack. It was something that he said about something different. But I guess I took it personally because he basically described what I do in my office and says, you cannot do that. It's impossible to do that. Okay? Now, again, I have no problem with somebody has a different opinion than I do. But, and this is a big one, a big but, right? There's always a big but in the room. Here's the big but. If you don't really understand what I do, please don't judge me. If you don't really understand what it is that my office, and by the way, I'm very open. Okay, I told you about that workshop, Go Create Some Value, folks. If you want to know in detail, I'm very, very detailed in that workshop as far as how my office runs. Okay, details, who does what, how it works, what's the throughput like, what's the assembly line look like. Okay, I'm very detailed. If you can go through that whole workshop, okay, take notes, go through the experience, and then come out with a different opinion, you know what? I respect that. What I don't respect is an individual who thinks they know what I do. Okay. And I'll give you an example. Okay. This isn't the situation from yesterday and today, but quite often I'm told by people, you cannot do that kind of volume and be USPAP compliant. Okay. Well, I guess I do a lot of un-USPAP compliant reports, even though I won't get off on that. Okay. It's just an example. You cannot fill in the blank. Right? You cannot do that and still be a good person. You cannot do that thing and still be USPAP compliant. You cannot do that thing and call yourself an appraiser. Okay? But here's the problem, folks. They are seeing their opinion through the perspective, and I'm going to use, again, a Stephen Covey word. They are using their paradigm. Okay? Their paradigm is what they know. Okay. You know what? I am going to I don't mean to throw you under the bus, Bill, but Bill is an individual who just loves to make, comments here and there about some of the things that I do. Folks, Bill, let me just tell you, buddy. And by the way, I've invited several times Bill to come on the program. He's yet to take me up on that. I would absolutely, no editing allowed, right? Turn on the microphone and Bill and I have a conversation. No editing allowed. I'm not going to make it look better for me. Okay. If Bill has the guts to have that conversation, I would love to have that conversation. And by the way, Bill, I will make it civil. I promise. I'm not going to call you names. I'm not going to spit in your face. I'm not going to throw you under the bus. I want to have a conversation because Bill often will make comments about things that, frankly, Bill, you don't understand. You don't. And I respect that, okay? I understand that. I get it. We're all human beings. We think we know what we know, but sometimes we don't know what we don't know. Okay, I hope that makes sense. But Bill will often make comments about, oh, you can't do that, right? That's not possible. And I'm sorry, but Bill is speaking through the eyes of Bill. I will give Bill the benefit of the doubt here. I will say that from Bill's perspective, Bill is correct. Let me repeat that using a different word. From Bill's paradigm, Bill is absolutely correct. In other words, if you continue to use the business practices that you're used to, Bill, doing what I do, the type of volume that I do without cutting corners and without being USPAP compliant, it's not possible. I don't know if I said that right, but I think you followed, right? In other words, if you continue to use the business practices that you're using, then you're right. You cannot do the volume that I do in my office and remain USPAP compliant and have a high quality product. You can't do it. But that's not the point. The point is you're seeing it through your perspective. You're seeing it through the eyes of what you think is common. Okay? I love my 18-year-old son, but he will often tell me, everybody's doing this, Dad. Everybody's doing this, right? So when I challenge him on something, hey, Dal, why are you doing it the way you're doing it? And his answer is, everybody does it that way, Dad. Everybody does. And I'm like, really? Everybody? Well, Dad, you know what I mean. Most everybody. Really? You sure about that? Well, of course, everybody that I know. Okay. Everybody that you know? Right? And I'll challenge him and it drives him crazy. But here's the thing, folks. When you use the term like everybody and never and, these ultimatums that probably don't apply some of the time. Okay, there are exceptions to the rule, right? Bill, I will tell you flat out, I am an exception to the rule. Okay, and I know enough about business owners throughout the country. Remember, I have personally coached hundreds of appraisers and at least been associated with thousands of appraisers. Okay, I have a pretty good idea of the business practices in a lot, not all, a lot of appraiser businesses and the way that they run things. Okay, have a pretty good idea. I also know from firsthand experience that I used to run a very similar business and I changed the way I run my business. And by the way, I'm very proud of the quality of the appraisal report that I put out now. Okay. I've also been able, as a coach, been blessed, if you will, if you want to use that word, to have an opportunity to coach, teach, mentor other appraisers along the same path. And I've seen hundreds, yes, I'm not exaggerating with that number, hundreds of appraisers turn their appraisal business around and go from making, maybe doing 1 or 2 reports a day to doing 4 or 5 reports a day, okay? And keeping the quality high. One of the ways that we do that is through the law of delegation, that you as the appraiser don't have to be the one to find the zoning, for example. Now, you probably should be the one to analyze the zoning. You should be the one to make sure that the zoning is accurate. But do you have to actually be the one to get on the computer, to go out to the county website, to pull down the zoning map, to verify that the subject is in that zoning map, that there's no grandfather clause? Do you have to be the one to do all of that? Now, some would say yes. And to you, I probably can't help you much, okay? Those of you who are in this boat of, if you want it done right, you got to do it yourself. And by the way, I've been there, okay? So I can change your mind on that. I really can. But if you're going to stick with that mantra, I probably can't, as a coach, do much for you, okay? But the point is this. Most appraisers do 90+% of the appraisal by themselves. And so when I hear people say, Dustin, you cannot do what you're doing and remain USPAP compliant, I have to remember that they are looking through things through green-colored glasses. That's the glasses they were given by their mentor. Those are the glasses they've been wearing for years. And they are right. If I continue to do things the way you do them, Bill, I cannot do a higher volume and not cut corners. It's impossible. Okay? So here's the point today. Again, it's not to throw anyone under the bus. It's not to rant and rave. I hope it didn't come across that way, because I'm in a very zen moment here today, right? In fact, this is the last thing I have to do today, and I'm logging off, and I'm going to spend the rest of the evening with my beautiful wife and my family. Okay, I'm looking forward to that in a few minutes. The point today is, if any of this resonates with you, if you look at what I do or what your neighbor does, and let's take the appraisal out of it for a second, okay? If you look at your neighbor, you look at your spouse or significant other, or your child or your father or your mother or anybody else, and you say, well, that's impossible. Whatever they're doing is impossible, right? Nobody can have a boat like that and not be up to their eyeballs in debt, right? Or whatever it is, fill in the blank. Whenever you look at someone else's situation and you say, that's not possible, I would encourage you to take a step back and remember that you have your own colored glasses on your face, that there is a different paradigm. One of the biggest challenges of a coach is to help people change their paradigm. I'm telling you, folks, when people come to me and they say, Dustin, I've been doing it all wrong, but I've been listening to you and I know there's a better way and I'm willing to do things differently. Okay? That's the key term. I'm willing to do things differently. That's when their life changes. Those of you who are stuck doing 1 or 2 appraisals a day and feeling stretched and feeling, 10 to 12 to 14-hour days are killing you, okay? And you see no way out of that, I would ask you to look at your paradigm. I would ask you to ask yourself, is there a different way of looking at things? I think there is, and I think it'll change your life. And whatever I can do to help you on that, please let me. But please don't say, you cannot ellipsis. Please don't say, that's impossible. Because anything's possible. I believe you can run a successful, effective, and joyful, happy, fun appraisal business, make a lot of money, be USPAP compliant, enjoy your time on this earth as a real estate appraiser. And I would love to help you with that. Please reach out to me, thecoach@theappraisercoach.com, if I can help you. And have a great day, folks.
You've been listening to the Appraiser Coach podcast with Dustin Harris. If you like what you hear, please give us a 5-star rating and post a short review on iTunes. For more in-depth insider information on how you can make more money as a real estate appraiser, visit theappraisercoach.com and sign up for the All-Star team today. Thanks for joining us. And now, get out there and create some value.